All right, guys. I think we'll start. Very thanks a lot for joining in the InterNFT development call 12. Um, and we'll start by a very small introduction by everybody. If you can please iterate over the name, the project, and the interest for you to join the call so that the participants of the call can be documented. Orko, if you want to start.
Hello, my name is Parth. Sorry, I didn't hear anyone, so I just had to go. My name is Parth. I'm CEO of Memora, and we're looking forward to contributing to InterNFT to adopt these standards and bring them into DeFi to service traditional memorabilia. Thank you.
This is Michael from Stargaze. I also run the ICS 721 working group over on Gravity Bridge.
Hey, this is Vishwas from Hypersign. We are working on DIDs, so I just want to explore how DID can be useful for NFTs as well.
Perfect. Does anybody else want to iterate over?
Hey, Ganesh this side, everyone. I'm from Team Moy, my own internet. Here to hear the invitation of Sachin and trying to explore some use cases on top of Inter NFT. All of them sound great, and looking forward to exploring those use cases and see how we can support them using our Web3 APIs.
Great. I think Jake, if you wanna just iterate over what just about a little bit about Axelar. Jake, am I audible? All right. I think there's some problem. Um, Anyone else who wants to give a small introduction? Otherwise, we'll just start with the call.
I think Cypherblock is trying to get in, but I don't think he has the role to join the event.
All right. I'll just DM you while we start the call, and we can. I'll assign him the role.
Okay, thank you.
QEDK. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. Do you wanna just give a small introduction? I think you're the last one left.
Yeah, sure. I'll go ahead. Hey everyone, I'm QETK. I do smart contracts at Polygon. I'm also a core member of Moonshot Collective, and I'm also part of the Gitcoin DAO GPC. Just nice to be here. Nice to meet all of you. Yeah.
Great. Yeah, hi Sachin. We were just starting with the call. If you want to give a small introduction and the interest of you being in this call for InterNFT. Um, you're still on mute, Sachin, in case you're speaking.
Oh, my bad. Sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Awesome. Thanks, Sachin. Thanks for having me here. And just to give a little bit of introduction about myself, my name is Sachindra, and I'm CEO and founder for Lazarus Network. And we are building multiple solutions across cybersecurity, Web3, and some solutions into GameFi. The reason why we are in this particular call, in InterNFT working group call, is we are building something as a no code NFT marketplace solution and integrating asset mantle. And trying to create a no code solution integrating Cosmos SDK, and definitely want to see the current space, the entire ecosystem, and trying to it and member in this particular community. And that's why we are here. Really excited to be here, guys. Thanks.
Hey guys, I can go. Can you hear me okay? I was having some audio problems
Yes.
before.
Yes,
Yeah.
we can hear you.
Perfect. So my name is Jake Kane. I am on the Axelar network team. We're another Cosmos chain. I'm here with Khan. I don't know if he introduced himself before as well, but he's on our team. We essentially are an interoperability protocol that is a blockchain. So you kind of plug into us, and then we're able to move any assets, NFTs, general messages to or from any chain within our network. So you can kind of think of us like IBC, but we connect all of the Cosmos chains and really every other chain to the rest of the ecosystem. So figured we'd be moving these NFTs around, so standardizing them makes a lot of sense.
Great.
Yeah. Hey, guys. And I didn't introduce myself. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Hello. Yeah, I was having technical difficulties as well, but Khan from the Axelar team as well. I work on a few verticals within our organization, largely focused on applications development, but also in developing API tools that are used by platforms like yours and others to enable general message passing. So recently, I've taken on a better initiative or a greater initiative in kind of solutioning with some of our partners. So as you guys work through things like implementation, expect to liaise with individuals on your team more throughout that phase.
That's great. Thanks a lot for the introduction, guys. I hope everybody's done. Just to reiterate, this was to document the participants of the call. Um, Great. If nobody's left, we will start. Over to you, Dipanshu.
Yep. Hello, everyone. I'm Dipanshu. I'll be hosting the 12th working group call for InterNFT working group. Just to give a quick introduction, I'm from Asset Mantle. I take care of product development and delivery. And uh, uh, going through the agenda for this particular working group call, we'll be starting off with the introduction, 5 minutes. I think that's already done now. We'll get into the background about this InterNFT working group. So I guess a lot of participants for this working group will be new and wouldn't have any background as to like the work that we've already done. So we'll quickly go through that. In fact, the major agenda for this particular call is to provide a refresher for the work that has already been done and point towards resources so that in the next working group call we have more informed discussions. So this call is just about like walking through what has been already done. We won't be like discussing any major RFCs or any new RFCs as well. Then we're gonna get into a quick about DID. Spoiler for whoever is joining new. This InterNFT standard is very much influenced by the W3C DID standard, and to understand some of the terminologies that we'll be using, I think it would be best if we went through a quick refresher about DIDs and their components. I will quickly go through it in 10 minutes. After that, we discuss about the InterNFT core for 10 minutes, the core concepts, what were the requirements, what were the use cases that we were considering while trying to solve for what metadata and an interface standard for InterNFT and interchain NFT would look like. Then we're gonna very quickly go through the RFCs. We're not gonna get into detail about any of these RFCs. Just point towards them and one line discuss what's been mentioned inside. And after we've gone through these NFT RFCs, we are gonna get into discussion from the working group. From our experience from the last working group calls, I guess the main important focus for these calls should be discussions. So in fact, we can spend from 5 minutes to like whatever amount of time we'd like to on this call to like get all the comments and discussions out of the way. In fact, after each of the sections, we'd spend 30 seconds to get any inputs, any comments, any and discussions around what has already been discussed. Queries are more than welcome, even when we are going through a particular section. Yeah, so I guess if the agenda is clear and there are no comments, we'd go on to the background about this working group. All right, starting with the background. So the working group started off in 4th of September 2020. We had a total of 11 calls that extended to 18th March 2021. That is when we paused the working group and we are restarting the working group now. When we started off, they were like over the period of this duration of this working group, a lot of project joined. But when we are starting off, the core group members were these. There was ICF and Cosmos. I was participating from the persistence team, and IXO was a major contributor. Um, and these three core members were holding the responsibility of documenting the minutes, creating resources around, tooling around InterNFT, and also maintaining the RFCs as well. From the public contributor, we had Akash Network participating in Iris Network, who at that particular point of time had already implemented an NFT module and which was in production. We had Left Gallery, we had Simply VC and Region Network participating in as well. Um, Right. If anyone is interested in like going through the minutes of the meeting or any of the presentation and resources presented through any of these working group calls, I have included a link for the same in this markdown that is probably shared with the rest of the group as well. So here we'd find a majority of the resources as well as the minute of the meeting for these calls and presentations. Uh, when we are starting off, the roadmap that was set was initially through the working group to capture all the use cases that all of the participating projects would want to see implemented through this particular standard. That's the reason why we went through this introductions section as well to capture any new and interesting use cases that have not already been captured. The use cases have also been documented in NFT RFC 002. We would be going through them as well shortly. Uh, 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 yeah. So after capturing the use cases, the next checkpoint was to define the NFT interface and metadata spec. This is where we vary from other NFT interface standards. In that, like in Cosmos, since the every chain defines their own modules and code, and every chain has their own data object models. The responsibility of this group was not just to define an interface, but also to define a metadata spec so that the data object that we'll be passing from one InterNFT compliant chain to another would also be decodable, understandable on the other end by the host chain. Um, uh, post that, we had to implement like reference implementation. This is where, like, this is the last checkpoint that where we stopped the working group at in the last iteration of these working group calls. Uh, After having successfully implemented the Cosmos SDK modules, we would have gone on to tackle the UI UX problem, as in with this standardization, we were on top of the interface and metadata, also tackling the humongous problem of how to like UI wise represent these NFTs singularly across different wallets and applications, since it's an like interchain NFT and is not just bound to one particular application. Post that, we'd ha- we're going to tackle the developer tools, and then finally implement a prototype use case application with demo. So uh, the like checkpoint that we stopped at last time was the technical standard specification. We had in draft mode proposed 9 RFCs. All of them are in draft stage. None of them are in proposal stage, and there is still scope for all of us in the working group to comment on them, get them modified, get their use cases included, get their like capabilities or functionalities, features that they would want from this standard included in. Um, uh, we can do so in this call, but I would as well invite all of us to head over to the GitHub for these RFCs, which you can see would be present at github.com/internft/NFT RFC. Uh, yeah. Uh, Moving on, from the implementation side, we did go on and implement the incomplete InterNFT standard in the project Asset Mantle. These modules are also open source and available at the Asset Mantle GitHub repository. Other implementations of note that we will be taking reference of and drawing inspiration from as well will be the Cosmos NFT module. Yes, there's always already an NFT module implemented at the Cosmos SDK level. It follows the ICS 721 standard, which, if I'm not wrong, is on the standardization track. The implementation details have been mentioned in the ADR 43, and yeah, I guess the implementation is not in production yet, but yeah, the implementation is out there. To note, this implementation does refer to and borrow a little bit from the Internet standard, specifically the class concept that we discussed over the working group calls. Yeah, moving on. Uh, we have other implementation as well. I was trying to find the reference link for this module, which was in the uh, Cosmos repository earlier in the incubator repository in modules NFT. So this was the reference module where we started from, and a lot of project in Cosmos, I guess, right now that are implementing NFTs at a module level also borrow heavily from this particular module. But yeah, I'm not able to find this particular one right now. Then we have a CW 721 standard as well on Cosmos, which is a standard for implementing CosmWasm smart contract. And this particular standard also draws very closely from the ERC 721 standard. Other standard implementation that we did and we will also continue to draw inspiration from will be, of course, ERC 721 standard. Um, uh, and yeah, this is I guess the dominant standard right now with respect to the NFT implementation that are out there in the wild in production. We do have other more arcane standards like 1155, 994, 108099, 998. Now, a lot of projects don't implement them, but there are a few concepts that we do draw from them. For example, concepts around refungibility, concepts around locking and locking, uh, etc., and like concept around operationalizing metadata and standardizing some of the metadata to operationalize some of the capabilities of these NFTs uh, on chain. Right. So that's the background. I, yep. I'm gonna wait 30 seconds at this particular point of time. If any of you guys have any queries or comments or anything to like add or like any corrections to make to this particular section.
Just wanted to ask, is Sean still working on the IIDs? Sean?
Yes. To give you a quick insight, on 18 March, after having a last call, this particular working group was commissioned by ICF, and ICF took a call that the initially the requirement was to implement a NFT standard that would implement majority of the use cases that we can find in Cosmos. But then the use case changed, and it was to implement the base minimum NFT implementation that can go on the Cosmos Hub through NFT module. So we stopped the working group there, and then we split up the group into two. One which would work on like this base Cosmos NFT module, and another one which will work on DIDs. So right now there is a repository called Mission Earth, if I'm not wrong, Mission Earth / DID Cosmos, where like this work is continuing on. If I am allowed like 1 minute, I will quickly go through the like reference. In the meantime, if anyone has like any other comments. Yeah, I guess in this particular document, I did see a reference of DID implementations. Status of the document, DID core suits, decentralized working group. 103 experimental DID method specification. And so in this particular one, if we search for Cosmos, yeah. So Sean is working, I guess, on Earth program DID Cosmos. So yeah, here is where the rest of the DID work by Sean is being continued at.
Dipanshu,
Yeah.
there's a question in the text channel as well. Just right now, somebody pinged.
Sachin, I'm sharing my screen. Is it possible for you to?
All right, yeah, I can. 1 second. Yeah, Orko asked how is InterNFT different or better than ICS 721, CW 721, and or ER 721, ERC 721.
Yes. To answer that question, CW 721 and ERC 721 are like NFT standards that have been like implemented with smart contracts in mind, and not the interchain module-based implementation for NFTs. The NFTs that can interact with other applications on other chains. Uh, the fundamentals about how the design and the metadata to be implemented changes a bit. ERC 721 and CW 721 are more focused around where the NFT use cases that can interact with other smart contracts and not applications on other chain. With respect to ICS 721, as far as my understanding goes, the requirement was to build a module that would be like the minimum click of all like NFT, the minimum and the simplest implementation of what an NFT should look like in the interchain and the and in the Cosmos universe, and a module that should be untainted by specific use cases, enough so that it can go on the Cosmos Hub one day, I guess. Like I'm not sure about the plans there, but the like uh, the uh, uh, the timelines for the Cosmos SDK release, I guess, mentions the NFT module. So I guess, yeah, it will be released on Cosmos Hub someday, but like I'm a little bit hazy on that particular detail.
Question? So is this InterNFT is supposed to allow an NFT to move between two different chains, correct?
Correct, yes. That's the exact reason why we adopted DIDs, because our thesis was that like the metadata associated with NFTs might be like variable, and the size of this metadata might be like quite big, where in some cases might be even bigger than what a block could like accommodate for an NFT mint transaction, or an IBC transfer transaction might not even be able to accommodate for this like volume of metadata. So our thesis was to like have the metadata be implemented as a DID document, while the ownership representative being represented as the DID itself. So the ownership goes as just a DID identifier string, and the metadata sits on the native chain itself. And since the ownership token is as simple as like a coin, Cosmos SDK coin looks like, you can utilize the current implementation, current IBC to like just send over these NFT ownership tokens as normal tokens over IBC without requiring any modification or changes to the current IBC implementation.
Yeah, so in other words, it allows transfers for chains that have on-chain metadata, correct?
No, any chain that supports coins, the SDK coins, and implement IBC can have the NFT transfers enabled. The slight differentiator is that the denom would carry the DID notification. So, majority of the chains might not be able to differentiate a normal coin from a NFT DID, but some chains that do. And in future, when we implement IBC resolver, which can query metadata, we can operationalize more functionalities and features around NFTs on the host chain of these transferred NFTs.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is that, so two questions. One, this would work with between two chains that have on-chain metadata. Using InterNFT, right? So, for example, if Asset Mantle has on-chain metadata, right?
Right.
So it would be able to say make a transfer to OmniFlix, who has on-chain metadata. Is it correct?
Right. So like the on-chain metadata itself won't be like the spec says the on-chain metadata will never get transferred. Only the ownership token will get transferred over. But yes, if like ideally, even if both the chains implemented the document module which stores these DID documents, even in that scenario, we would never like actually transfer the metadata over to another chain, because again our thesis was that the operationalization, the specific logic to modify this metadata would ideally just sit in the issuer chain. And since the issuer chain knows how to modify, only the issuer chain knows how to modify this metadata, we never transfer over the metadata. We let the metadata always sit on the issuer chain. We only let the ownership token get transferred over to other chains. And in
Yeah,
future,
that makes sense.
yeah, and yes, in the working group, like we did loop in the team that was working on IBC back then, and we did communicate our requirement of like IBC DID resolver, and that was too much of a ask back then. Which where other chains could identify this DID and would be able to like through the DID URI reference some of the metadata over IBC. But yeah, I guess we never pursued that particular yeah uh, implementation. But yeah, maybe if yeah.
Yeah, and then my other question would be, so assuming that Internet NFT was operational on one chain, would it be able to communicate with another chain that's using ICS 721, which is already has been implemented partially?
Right. Yes. So the ICS. So like irrespective of any if any change like communicates with implements ICS 721. The Indian NFT like spec says that we would be utilizing the bank module itself to issue the ownership tokens with denoms as DID and amount as a smallest deck if it's like a non-splittable NFT and as some decimal if it's a splittable NFT. So any chain that implements the bank module should be able to receive these NFTs. Now, will the ICS 721 uh, NFTs be like how do I put it, interoperable with InterNFT NFTs? Not directly, because uh, as far as like I understand, ICS 721 uh, spec says that an IBC transfer of an NFT would look like actually transferring over the whole metadata over to another chain. So there's where like there's a like core differentiation between the two. Uh, if I had to discuss why transferring over the metadata to another chain may not be the best idea is because it can potentially be an attack vector where like chains can spin up and just transfer over a large amount of metadata and increase the state size, reduce the query and transaction speeds, etc. I guess.
So it sounds like InterNFT is using like I said, a bank module to show that the representation is exists in someone's wallet as a denom of the NFT.
Correct. Yes.
And then when it comes to ICS 721, it's an actual transfer of the NFT because it now exists on a different smart contract.
Correct. Yes. Yes. Yeah. You got that right.
Is there any reason why someone would use or use cases where someone would use ICS 721 instead of InterNFT or vice versa?
So now that's a subjective question. Like I don't have an exact like technical answer for that, but my take on it is although like we represent here like I guess 6 or 7 different ERC NFT standards. We all stick to 721 because it's the most utilized standard. So I guess that's the biggest uh, proponent for someone implementing ICS 721 because if it becomes the most adopted standard, then the majority of the NFT use cases might want to implement ICS 721. From the technical perspective, like I would say that I think transferring over the metadata over to another chain over an IBC channel might be kind of an attack vector towards the more dominant
Well,
chain.
another concern would be if we have people because I mean ICS 721 is already in process. It's already been implemented by IrisNet. If someone is transfers an NFT using ICS 721, then there might be confusion in terms of someone transferring a representation of that NFT in a bank module using InterNFT. So
yeah, sorry.
There would have to be some kind of inner process because if both exist, then someone might try to transfer the NFT maliciously or accidentally using both standards, and then have 2 representations of the same NFT transferred.
Right. I mean, at a core level, the ICS 721 wallet would look very different from InterNFT wallet because InterNFT wallet would just be a normal token wallet. Like you can, current implementation of Kepler would allow for it. While like ICS 721 NFTs would require a more specialized wallet. So there is enough, I guess, differentiation in the UX and the UI for people to be able to like differentiate that, yeah, these two are not the same. And in fact, like our aim and the reason why we're kickstarting this group again is because one of the main uh, uh, like aims of this working group was to implement a standard that would uh, like then and even now incorporate majority of the use cases that projects are building around NFTs into one standard that we can all talk in. And if that kind of goes on a standardization track, contributed back to like Cosmos SDK or maybe even ICS 721 if it's not standardized till that particular point of time, because there are some use cases which cannot be solved by ICS 721. For example, the asset mantle or the Comdex ShipFi use case, or I guess IXO's impact bond use case, carbon credit use case is not solvable by ICS 721 current implementation.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not opposed to multiple standards, but what I'm saying is since my goal is to avoid fragmentation, because the goal is interoperability, not one particular standard. And ICS 721 is already in play. It's a lot of work done there. So if this standard, this InterNFT standard, is to exist, there should be some way for the two to communicate, or for one, some kind of adapter or something in which you can't operate both, like one validator cannot run both at the same time and cause confusion or opens a malicious vector.
Absolutely, absolutely. That was not a like use case we had considered in the past, and that's a great point you bring up. We're gonna add this particular use case inside our like requirements and like use cases as well, and yeah, try to solve for that particular aspect as well.
Just my personal 2 cents on that is that I don't see it as attack vectors. I more so see it as defense vectors. Just coming from one place to another. I don't necessarily see that as an attack vector, but I mean, what we're doing is we're defending existing NFTs and trying to create more ways to preserve that technology. Although confusion may arise, I mean, it would just you just have to go back far enough to know where it came from, and that could be solved with some sort of explorer or something like that. But I mean, I'm not sure if I'm understanding you correctly, but if I am, that's the way we think of it.
Yeah.
When I say attack vector, I more mean like accidental transfer or misuse because of confusion.
Copy that.
Right. Again, my 2 cents on that particular one. We there are a bunch of use cases that some projects in future will try to implement, and if that is not implementable in the scope of the current spec of ICS 721, then irrespective, we are going to see newer implementations of NFTs, and that's the biggest problem that we faced in the last working group call as well, as to which use cases to include and how many use cases to include, and is it even possible to implement a interface interchain NFT standard with all the metadata and interfaces that all use cases might ever want to implement. So yeah, I mean, it's a tricky problem, but at the end of the day, the use case of an implementation is for it to solve for a specific problem, and if it's not able to, definitely there are going to be projects that are going to be implementing variations.
Yeah, certainly. At our team, we're going on a biological perspective, so just defining our NFTs from that point of view, and figuring it out from there. like I don't have a technical background, but that's how we're defining it. Just that may like put us towards a different trajectory, but not necessarily like defining it in a box like that, but more so like loosely uh, approaching it from an ontological perspective, and then allowing the smart contracts or whatever to work with those things and amend and all that kind of stuff. But
Yep. Yeah, I mean, we, we'd be more than glad to capture that particular use case and try to solve for it as well. To note, I remember one of the most complex use cases that we had to solve for was from Pylon's network, where there were recipes for NFTs, and NFTs could evolve over like transactions, and could evolve from like one kind of NFT to a different kind of NFT altogether, can even split into two. So yeah, I mean, there are some very complex use cases out there, and we did account for uh, all of those uh, assertions that an NFT metadata might be able to like implement on chain through NFT RFC 008. It became kind of complex, this particular RFC, but would highly encourage you to look into this particular one and see if any of the like assertions and capabilities that we are aiming to implement satisfy that your particular use case.
certainly, thank you for sharing.
Awesome. I guess if there's no other discussions, and I think we are 2 minutes away from our deadline. Yeah, but yeah, discussion is always encouraged, and thanks for contributing to the discussion. Uh, but moving on to the next section, let's go through a quick refresher about DIDs. And I know that Hypersign team is there, who has mastered a DID concept on ledgers. So I mean, it would be best if you guys would want to take this up. But just in uh, like interest of time, I'll quickly go through these. So for those who are not like introduced to DID concept, I'm going to quickly uh, run through some of the basic concept and try to explain it as simply as possible. So basically, the ID says that like identifiers should not be verifiable. Should not be only issuable by centralized authorities, and people should be able to, and entities should be able to not only issue but also verify and maintain their identifiers in a decentralized fashion. A DID refers to two things. A DID refers to the subject of the DID, which is uh, the object which is the main uh, uh, the DID points to an object, and that particular object, it can be a person, organization, entity, piece of data. That particular object would be referred to as the subject of the DID. It also refers to the document. So a DID comes with a set of metadata, which is kind of like a map of, or a key value pair of all the properties that are associated with or defining that particular object or subject. Um, we have a DID resolver and DID dereferencer. A DID resolver takes in a DID and spews out the DID document, while a dereferencer takes the DID URL and spews out whatever resource and renders it for like a viewability. Um, a DID method is and we implement one in InterNFT as well. We have modified DID to be called IDs, and we introduced one new method inside it. And uh, methods are kind of like capabilities, like to put it simply, that the DID document could enable. It could be like verification, etc. Then we have the DID controller. DID controller is any entity that can modify the DID document. It could be multiple entities. It could be another DID document. It could be a DID document that refers to a person. It could be anyone. uh, and verifiable data registry. Although the DIDs do not depend on any particular one centralized issuer, they do depend on a registry where these documents could be fetched from and verified as well. In our case, the verifiable data registry would be a DLT or a blockchain. Um, yeah, so that's about DIDs or like my understanding of DIDs. If there are any comments or any corrections to the statements that I made. Um, if not, then I'm going to be moving on. So, what's the core of InterNFT standard? What are the use cases that it tries to solve for? Uh, so these are the high level use cases that have been mentioned here. Now there are more detailed use cases that have been mentioned in the RFC 002 here. So I would again encourage you to have a look at this particular RFC, and if you'd want your use case to be included and be considered for the the design of InterNFT, then please either drop a text in the working group or can directly raise a pull request, and we'll verify and merge it in. So yeah, on a high level, these are the use cases that we solve for. Collectible tokens. So and any piece of digital object that is rare and would be considered like a collectible that goes in the collectible token use case category. One thing that we enforce is that a collectible, all the features of the collectible and the rarity aspect should be present on chain and be totally digital, uh, either on chain or be totally digital. Financing. So uh, these refer to digital invoices for invoice financing use cases. Impact token. These refer to IXO and region kind of tokens where social impacts are tokenized and then sold later on when they mature. Access tokens. These are API access tokens, etc. Whoever is holding the NFT get digital access to certain resources and surface endpoints. Art tokens is referred to a registered, patented, or copyrighted arts that are created and uh, are traded around. I guess art tokens are the currently the 90% use case of NFTs at this particular point. So definitely it should not be placed at the level we have placed it at, but I guess solving for it is very easy. Uh, then we have the physical property tokens. These are tokenized legal agreements for property ownership that can be put as NFTs and also in future be enforced legally as well. Data tokens, so these are pieces of information like API keys, etc., that can be sent over in a hashed format with proofs as NFTs. We have credential tokens, so these are not direct credentials, but credentials to access some services, credential to access some capabilities on some platforms. For example, let's say you get a NFT that allows you to mint more NFTs, or you get an NFT that allows you to unlock one login on some application that only the holders of that particular NFT can unlock. So these are the the credential NFT, the capability NFTs. Uh, uh, Allow you to so this is like OddZ, whoever holds this NFT is able to operationalize some transaction, some set capability for uh, maybe another NFT, maybe another DID, maybe another wallet, etc. And then we have got the commodities NFT. So these are uh, tokenized commodities that can be data on DEX. This is the ComDex ShipFi use case. So these are on a high level major use cases that we solve for. I'm not sure if we and this RFC is a little bit old, as we mentioned. The working group stopped at like 18th March 2021. So it's been a year. If I guess if there more use cases popped up, I'll definitely want to like include them here. So based on these use cases, we went deep into these use cases and identified what like functionalities would an NFT would have to implement in order to operationalize all of these use cases. And I guess this is where the differentiator kicks in with respect to like other standards and what InterNFT can do. Uh, so yeah, all of these are like operationable or supposed to be operationable to the Internet NFT standard. Them being mintable, NFT should be mintable, the easiest one of them all. The burnable, it should be burnable. Ownable, someone should be able to own it. Transferable, easy one. Non-transferable, yeah. This use case is the soul-bound NFTs that are issued as credentials to one particular person and cannot be transferred. Lockable, so for a certain period of time or for certain conditions, an NFT should be locked to like a wallet or an application. For example, let's say house NFT that has been mortgaged. Uh, it must have immutable components. It must have metadata that can never be mutated. It must also have mutable components that will allow mutation of some of the properties. For example, let's say you bought a car and one of its components, let's say the engine, had to be replaced. So now you must be allowed to, since the car is mutable, like you must be allowed to mutate the engine property and replace the engine with another engine NFT. Fractional. So this particular use case says that like any NFT, the ownership of it should be like not limited to like one person of wallet. It should be fractionalizable for like multiple peoples to be able to own it. The other term for it will be refungible. Other term would be like yeah, creating a supply for an NFT, one NFT, multiple like holders, one card, like let's say one collectible card that can have like multiple issues kind of scenario. Composable. So this particular use case means that one NFTs as its properties as is one of its components should also be able to like have another NFTs. This one is an easy one. Like in the metadata field, we just fill in the DID of the another of other NFTs. So that's how we can compose together NFTs. So like, yeah, let's say you're building a car NFT and you want to like, you have NFTs for other components. So instead of just specifying a URI to that component, you put a DID of that particular component NFT and compose a whole car out of it. Uh, um, Conditional. So like, yeah, this particular aspect means that uh, despite all the like functionalities that have been built in, there should be on top uh, like uh, uh, space for there being conditional uh, like changes to the NFT only on certain conditions being met. So for this particular use case, we like integrate the NFT modules with like Cosm Wasm and give them the capability to on runtime allow for changes to or addition of certain capabilities to the NFTs and add certain like uh, conditional parameters to mutation logic of the NFTs. So based on these use cases and requirements, we came up with a matrix. Now, one of the use cases that stand out is the capability NFT. It does not require any of the uh, like uh, use cases that we mentioned here. And another use case that stands out a lot is the financing tokens NFTs. It requires all of the capability that an NFT has to implement. So yeah, that's the core like requirement that we started building the NFT standard for. Uh, to go a little bit deeper, as I was just discussing in the last discussion, the NFT metadata is represented as a DID document. The NFT identifier is represented as a DID. The transfer of NFT happens as coins with denom set to the DID of the NFT. And since the coins are transferable over IBC, these become interchain as well. In future, if we have a IBC DID resolver, we'll also be able to like give DID URIs and be able to resolve metadata, and if the module, if the host chain module, if the host chain implements module that can operationalize some of this metadata, they might also be able to extend the capabilities of this NFTs uh, uh, to the host chain and not have it only localized to the issuing chain. Um,
Dipanshu, sorry to interrupt you. Quick question.
yes, please.
Uh, so in order to in order for this inter NFT to work, like within cross chain, between cross chains, right? The DID has to be resolved, right, somehow, because you said that the document is not going to be transferred across the chain. It has to be resolved. Yeah.
Right.
So, IBC, so did IBC resolver needs to be implemented first?
Yes.
Isn't it?
Yes, the IBC resolver needs to be implemented in scenario we want the NFT like capabilities to be implemented in the like foreign chain or the host chain as well. Currently, with the limitation that we have with respect to implementation, with when we say interchain, we only mean interchain ownership transfers. So you can transfer over the ownership, and yeah, that's where the interchain aspect of the capability of InterNFT ends. In future, yes, when as and when the interchain the IBC DID resolver is implemented, we can hope for more complex capabilities to be implemented across chain as well. But right now, it's just ownership transfer. Um,
Sorry, ownership is as in like the token gets transferred.
Correct. Yes. So you can
Is that
transfer
correct?
over
Yeah.
the ownership, and then use cases that will allow that will allow for example, like mortgaging this NFT or like taking this NFT and putting it on a DEX. Yeah, those kind of use cases are allowable. What use cases are not allowable is like reading the metadata and operationalizing some of the capabilities of the NFT on the foreign chain.
Understood. Thank you.
Awesome. Wait, wait some more time if there's any more queries or requests for addition of use cases. Right. Uh, uh, in in uh, in that scenario, let me move on to the uh, final section. I know we are 15 minutes over time, but yeah, let's very quickly go through these. Again, I'm not going to get into details of each of these RFCs. Some of them are like very complex and detailed. Uh, but hopefully the working group would take some time to like go through these RFCs, and in the next working group, or even between that, like raise some comments on these RFCs or make comments on the in the working group about these RFCs as well. So yeah, to discuss, we have a total of like 9 RFCs. The first one specifies the inter NFT and metadata standard. It specifies like what an NFT means, what an interchain NFT means. It specifies what are the requirements on the metadata, what are the like capabilities that an interchain NFT should have. RFC 002 specifies the use cases that this particular standard solves for. RFC 003 specifies a base minimal interface for an NFT that if any NFT implements would be considered compliant with the Inter NFT standard. Uh, the RFC 004 specifies other code level natives of the inter NFT specific standard. The internet, if you note, the RFC 001 says interchain NFT standard. So 001 and 4 are not same. 4 is like more specific. It's a more specific implementation which defines some of the metadata, metadata specifications and data objects around metadata. The RFC 005 defines what an NFT rights mean and how to operationalize them. 006 identifies IIDs. So IIDs are basically DIDs, but on-chain, any on-chain DID should be referred as IID. That's what our proposal is. And it it introduces linked resources as one of the new properties of the DID document. Images or metadata, off-chain metadata that are linked to the NFT that are off-chain goes inside the property called linked resources. Then NFT layers, and this is an interesting one where we draw parallels between the OSI model and this InterNFT model that we are proposing here. There are 5 layers per se, and it needs a little bit of modification because we did not specify the like layer differentiation here. It's just like mentioned as a space in between. But yeah, these are the 8 layers that we specify. Uh, and and 008 like discuss NFT assertions. So like whatever metadata properties are present inside the document, how to operationalize them. So we know how, like for example, in DIDs, authorization property is operationalized. Similarly, this RFC discusses more around like verifiable credentials, how to do claim verifications on these credentials, etc. Um, 009 specifies interchain identifiers. So again, these are separate from IDs, although they look similar. Interchain identifier specifies like how identifier that can work with, like as we were discussing, IBC, DID resolver. How would an identifier look like, and what would be the like implementation details of such an identifier that will be unique across the interchain universe and will also be uniquely resolvable. And also it delves into more complex problems like what happens to DID that has been issued on a version of a chain that then later gets upgraded, or what happens to, like how would a resolver look like if a chain does not specify a specific endpoint, because like there should be service endpoints for this DID document, and what if a chain is just referred to as a chain, and it's up to the resolver to identify which endpoint, service endpoint is going to head to resolve that particular DID. So it tackles problems like those. Yeah, I would encourage the working group to go through these RFCs and present any thoughts, any comments, and directly comment, like raise issues, raise comments on these uh, RFCs. Yeah, so I guess that concludes this particular working group call. I hope it was informative, and the working group is motivated to like participate in the next working group call, armed with the like resources that we presented in this particular call. Um, I would now wait 30 seconds for any comments on the last section. If there are no comments, I would open up the stage and let Sachin moderate any discussions or comments on like what has been presented.
I think somebody was working on querying some data over IBC.
Yes.
You,
Yes,
right?
I guess there were issues open, and it was thoroughly discussed as well. Uh, I'm not able to put a name to the face, but I remember the contributor as well who participated in the Internet NFT working group calls. But I don't think that particular work has been concluded or is being actively pursued right now.
Yeah, it's called interchain query module.
Right, right.
I'll just share it in the group as well.
Awesome. Thanks.
Hi, Dipanshu. So I'm wondering whether this InterNFTs will eliminate the problem of separating the metadata from the NFT.
Right, right. So similar to how DIDs separate the metadata from the identifier itself, like we borrow heavily from that same concept of like separating the ownership token from the metadata of the NFT through representing it as a document and referencing to the NFT itself, the subject of the NFT as the through the DID. So like it's a little complex like topic to like fully grasp But I guess a simple example would be, let's say, uh, like I am the DID subject, right? So, is the DID me? No, it's not. The DID is not me. Is the DID document that refers to me? No, it's still not me. It's just a metadata about me, and it's not even the full set of metadata. The DID does point towards me, and at the end of the day, I'm referenced by myself, right? Uh, Similarly, an NFT is an object that is not the DID itself, it's not the metadata itself, but rather the DID is pointing towards that NFT as its subject, and the metadata is trying to describe that NFT. But that NFT is not fully captured by either the DID or the DID document, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so it's something like saying like I will sell you the car, but I will keep the keys with me.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I mean that's one way of putting it, but like the other way would be like a URI, right? URI, like what does a URI refer to? A URI, does it refer to like, for example, like Amazon.com? Does it refer to the company Amazon, or does it refer to the page that Amazon has implemented to like refer to itself, or what does the like identifier itself represent? So it's I mean, I personally was never able to grasp the concept of uh, like uh, identifier pointing to the object and the document like describing the object, but the object still being an elusive like entity that exists out of the realms of description.
That is true for any identifier, right? Like, for example, your username. It never represents you. If I take your username and your password, so I will represent you on the internet, right?
Right, right. I mean, yeah, absolutely, exactly. I mean, yeah, one might say the username represents the profile. One might say the entirety of the profile is a login which with the username references. But yeah, I mean, it points towards a person that none of the three are together are able to like describe.
Got it.
Yeah. If there are no other questions, I would like hand the stage over to Sachin to moderate any further discussion that the working group would want to have. Uh, Thank you guys for tuning in. Hope to see you guys in the next working group. Like in the next one, we would go a little bit deeper into like the RFCs, and again ask for discussions and comments on these RFCs. Thank you guys. Over to you, sir.
Thank you.
This is a great session.
Thanks, guys. Just before we end it, I just want to iterate that if any new project joined in between the call or any open source developer, if they can please send the name, the project company they are working with, and their interest with InterNFT, it is just to mark the attendance for the working group call. Everything, all the questions that are asked and answered will be updated in the document that I shared in the group, as well as the recording of it will be shared.